Good morning, dear students. I hope you all are doing good. We have been doing lesson number 8, Lady Candidates Need Not Apply. Now, here's a summary of the lesson. In section 1 of Sudha Murthy's personal narrative, Lady Candidates Need Not Apply, she tells us about herself that she was a bright, bold, and idealistic girl. She was in the final year of her master's course in computer science at the Indian Institute of Sciences in Bangalore, then known as the Tata Institute. It was probably in April 1974 in Bangalore, and it was getting warm and red with gulmohars that were blooming in the IISc campus. She was the only girl in the postgraduate department who was staying at the ladies' hostel. She was looking forward to going abroad and complete a doctorate degree in computer science. But she had never thought of taking up a job in India. One day, while she was returning to her hostel from the lecture hall complex, she saw an advertisement on the notice board. It was a standard job requirement notice from the famous automobile company Telco, which is now known as Tata Motors. It stated that the company required a young, bright engineers, hardworking with an excellent academic record. At the bottom was a small line that said, "Lady candidates need not apply." She read it and was very upset. For the first time in her life, she was up against gender discrimination. Though she was not keen on taking up a job, she saw this as a challenge. She had done extremely well in academics, better than most of her male peers. Little did she know then that in real life, academic excellence is not enough to be successful. After reading the notice, she went fuming to her room and decided to inform the topmost person in the telco's management about the injustice the company was perpetrating. She got a postcard and started to write. But there was a problem. She did not know who headed Telco. She knew JRD was the head of the Tata Group. She had seen his pictures in the newspaper. Actually, Sumant Mulgaonkar was the company's chairperson then. She took the card and addressed it to JRD and started writing. Until date, she remembers what she wrote. In a postcard, she wrote, "The great Tatas have always been pioneers. They are the people who started the basic infrastructure industries in India, such as iron and steel, chemicals, textiles, and locomotives. They have cared for higher education in India since 1900, and they were responsible for the establishment of the Indian Institute of Science. Fortunately, she was studying there." But then she wrote, "I am surprised how a company such as Telco is discriminating on the basis of gender." She posted that letter and forgot about it. Less than 10 days later, she received a telegram stating that she had to appear for an interview at the Telco's Pune facility at the company's expense. She was taken aback by the telegram. Her hostel mates told her she used the opportunity to go to Pune free of cost and buy them the famous Pune saris for cheap. She collected 30 rupees each from everyone who wanted a sari. She then looked back and felt like laughing at the reasons for going. But back then, they seemed good enough to make the trip. It was her first visit to Pune, and she immediately fell in love with the city. As directed, she went to Telco's Pimpri office for the interview. There were 6 people on the panel, and she realized then that this was a serious business. This is the girl who wrote to JRD. She heard somebody whisper as soon as she entered the room. By then, she knew for sure that she would not get the job. The realization abolished all fears from her mind. So she was rather cool while the interview was being conducted. The interview started. Sudha Murthy reckoned the panel was biased. So she told them rather impolitely, "I hope this is only a technical interview." They were taken aback by the rudeness. And even today, she's ashamed of her attitude. The panel asked her technical questions, and she answered all of them. Then an elderly gentleman with an affectionate voice told her, "Do you know why we said lady candidates need not apply? The reason is that we have never employed any ladies on the shop floor. This is not a co-ed college, this is a factory. When it comes to academics, you are a first ranker throughout. We appreciate that. But people like you should work in research laboratories." She was a young girl from a small town, Hubli. She did not know the ways of large corporate houses and their difficulties. So she answered, "But you must start somewhere, otherwise, no woman will ever be able to work in your factories." Finally, after a long interview, she was told she had been successful. It was only after joining Telco that she realized who JRD was, the uncrowned king of Indian industry. Now she was scared, but she did not get to meet him till she was transferred to Bombay. One day, she had to show some reports to Mr. Mulgaonkar, the chairperson who they all knew as SM. She was in his office on the first floor of Bombay House, the Tata headquarters, when suddenly JRD walked in. She was feeling very nervous, remembering her postcard episode. SM introduced her nicely. "J, that's what his close associates called him. This young woman is an engineer, and that too a postgraduate. She is the first woman to work on the Telco shop floor." JRD looked at her. She was praying he would not ask any questions about the interview or the postcard that preceded it. Thankfully, he didn't. Instead, he remarked, "It is nice that girls are getting into engineering in our country. By the way, what is your name?" "When I joined Telco, I was Sudha Kulkarni, sir," she replied. "Now I am Sudha Murthy." He smiled that kindly smile and started a discussion with SM. As for Sudha, she almost ran out of the room. One day she was waiting for Murthy, her husband, to pick her up after office hours. To her surprise, she saw JRD standing next to her. She did not know how to react. Yet again, she started worrying about the postcard. Looking back, she realized JRD had forgotten it. "Young lady, why are you here?" he asked. "Office time is over." She said, "Sir, I'm waiting for my husband to come and pick me up." JRD said, "It is getting dark and there's no one in the corridor. I'll wait with you till your husband comes." She was quite used to waiting for Murthy, but having JRD waiting alongside made her extremely uncomfortable. She was nervous. Out of the corner of her eye, she looked at him. There wasn't an air of superiority about him. She was thinking, look at this person. He's a chairman, a well-respected man in our country, and he's waiting for the sake of an ordinary employee. Then she saw Murthy and rushed out. JRD called and said, "Young lady, tell your husband never to make his wife wait again." In 1982, she had to resign from her job at Telco. She was reluctant to go, but she really did not have a choice. She was coming down the steps of Bombay House after wrapping up her final settlement when she saw JRD coming up. I wanted She wanted to say goodbye to him, so she stopped. He saw her and paused. Gently he said, "So what are you doing, Mrs. Kulkarni?" That was the way he always addressed her. "Sir, I'm leaving Telco." "Where are you going?" he asked. "Pune, sir. My husband is starting a company called Infosys, and I'm shifting to Pune." "Oh, what will you do when you are successful?" "Sir," she said, "I don't know whether we will be successful." "Never start with diffidence," he advised her. "Always start with confidence. When you are successful, you must give back to the society. Society gives us so much. We must reciprocate. I wish you all the best." Then JRD continued walking up the stairs. Sudhamurthy stood there for what seemed like a millennium. That was the last time she saw him alive. She considered JRD a great man because despite being an extremely busy person, she valued one postcard written by a young girl seeking justice. He respected the intentions of that unknown girl who had neither influence nor money and gave her an opportunity in his company. He did not merely give her a job, he changed her life and mindset forever. Close to 50% of the students in today's engineering colleges are girls. And there are women on the shop floor in many industry segments. Sudhamurthy sees this changes, and then thinks of JRD. So children, this was the end of the section 2. Giving back to the society has been the policy of the Infosys First family with founder N.R. Narayanamurthy and his wife Sudhamurthy. This first person account not only tells us about how Sudhamurthy decided to protest against an open display of gender discrimination and became one such example of a strong female figure who took a step forward to be employed at the shop floor level. This lesson also tells us about J.R.D. Tata, who may be remembered for the foolproof business strategies and unbelievable turnovers, but his true legacy and entrepreneur started with thinking outside the box. A humanitarian leader, kind, simple, and a great businessman, J.R.D.